Okay, welcome. We got a lot to go over here. So those of you that are online watching us, we appreciate you. Those of you here, we appreciate you. So here's a little bit of what we're going to agenda for today. So we're going to talk about the benefits of home ownership, current housing market, getting ready to buy a home, understanding credit and home buying, pre-approval process, understanding mortgages, shopping for a home. We've got a lot to go over. So we're going to get right to it and share this with you. So first thing, benefits of home ownership. Why buy a home? Homeowners' net worth, more than 40 times greater than that of a renter's. So homeowners, $255,000 in net worth. Actually, I should tell you that if you're watching us online, you can go ahead and request a copy of our packet, and we'll get that off to you. So it's got all the handouts and things that we're going to talk about. And we'll actually put a copy of the video in there as well. So you'll have all of that. The packet also has a pretty good size handbook in there. It has information on the down payment assistance program, which we'll talk about, credit scores, budgeting, all kinds of good stuff in the packets. And that'll also be on the link that we send you as well. So homeowners' net worth, more than 40 times greater than that of a renter. So you can see there on the slide, $255,000 is the net worth of the average homeowner, $6,300 for a renter. Significant difference there. And the numbers have been growing, so this disparity has been growing over time. You can also see the gap over the last 10 years, 15 years. So again, that shows the disparity between those that own a home and those that rent. And we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Our key focus is going to be just getting you on the board, getting you in the game. So the benefits of home ownership, obviously investment opportunity that begins long-term wealth. Key thing here is just to get in the game and get started. It's a game of Monopoly. So we're going to talk about some of these things and why wealthy folks do what they do and why poor folks do what they do and what's right. I mean, maybe building wealth is not the right answer for everybody. I don't know why, but there is some people that don't want to. This provides protection against rent increases. Owning a house, you know exactly what your rent, what your overhead, your cost of shelter is going to be long term. So one of my favorite lines lately has been, you have the opportunity either to get a D.R. Horton house or a Coleman house. And I'm not much of a camper. Coleman is a tent. So I don't think most of us want that. You're buying a house is going to get you appreciation. Key thing, get in the game, as I've mentioned before, is just getting a house, get started. It does not have to be your dream home. It can be a starting place. And we're going to talk about that. You also control your property. If you want to have pink walls, so be it. Unless it's against the city guidelines or homeowners association, you can do what you want. We had green and yellow walls in one of our houses. Our son loved the Green Bay Packers, so he was upstairs out of the way, and his whole room was painted in Green Bay Packers, green and yellow. So you can do that in your own house. And there's still tax benefits. There are a lot of tax benefits to owning your own home. So we're going to talk about some of those as well. Why you should buy a home. Grow your equity and wealth through appreciation on the property. In Orange County and in Riverside County, I've looked up both of those. Over the last 63 years, real estate is appreciated at over 5% average annual. Over 5%. I can contrast that with rent because it usually goes up 5%, but you don't get anything at the end of the day. So the appreciation on the home equity is good. We have to understand what equity is. Equity is money that is trapped in your home. So you want to make sure that you're watching that. And I should have set this to do not disturb before we got started. So I'm going to do that right now. Oh, well, maybe I won't. But equity is money that's trapped in your home. It's not liquid. That's the big issue. So when you put extra money into your home or you pay ahead on your mortgage, it's a dead asset. It's not going to do any good for you. The difference between the equity is defined as the difference between what you owe the bank and what your home is worth. So that's your equity right there. So if you have a $200,000 home and a mortgage of 150, your equity is 50. And I use small numbers because number one, they're easy. If you're in an area where, like Orange County, where your median home price is $1 million or over $1 million, you can just multiply these numbers times 5. Although I did look online today, and there was like 4 or 5 properties that were $200,000 in Orange County, in Anaheim actually. So be aware that some of these numbers, they look odd, but they are legitimate numbers. You've got a stable housing cost. The landlord's not going to raise your rent when you own a house. The only way it can go on, especially if you're smart enough to use fixed rate loans. And again, I don't recommend the shorter term. I like 30-year loans. But you're looking at no landlord to raise your rent. They can go down if interest rates go down, so which they will in the next 6 to 9 months. We'll see interest rates dropping. So as that happens, you're actually going to see that people will be able to refinance, either take equity out or to just get a better price. You control your property. You receive the rights of ownership. So you're able to deduct your interest payment and your property taxes. We're not giving tax advice, but you're going to deduct your interest payments and property taxes. If you're not able to do that, there's different strategies. You're going to build equity. So future equity buildup lets you set your retirement investments. I've actually done classes on how you can retire on $15,000 to $18,000 a month with no IRA, no 401k, just using your mortgage. So think about that concept of not having to put that money away in the 401k and the IRA. Although we're going to talk about doing that, but there's some retirement strategies where you don't need to. So how do you build wealth in real estate? Well, let's talk about appreciation. You buy a house for $100,000, you assume an annual appreciation rate of 5%. After the first, and I'm again just using real small numbers. After 1 year, the house is worth $105,000. Second year, the house is worth $110,250. After 4 years, it's worth $115,762, and after 5 years, it's worth $127,000. 10 years, $162,000. So think about that extra $62,000 in net worth. You think, and you might have put nothing down. So what other investment can you get that you put next to nothing down and have $62,000 in appreciation? Not a whole lot. So you're understanding how to build wealth is what we're going to talk about. Now, you don't build wealth by buying cars, unless you're an investor of cars, shoes, clothes, food, consumer goods. That's not the way to build wealth. And the biggest reason that we had the problems we did during the mortgage crisis back in 2009 was people used their houses as an ATM, right? So they were taking their money out of the house to go buy a new car, a new boat, or something along those lines. That's not building wealth. That's causing problems. You've got liquid assets, checking accounts, savings accounts, money markets. Those are a slow way of building wealth. Now, those are liquid, obviously, so you're going to get the least amount of return on those, right? So your checking account, you're probably going to get nothing. Savings accounts can get very little. Money market, I think there's some right now that are getting 4%. You've got semi-liquid assets, stocks, bonds, CDs, treasuries. If you need that money, you have to wait to get it. And then real estate and retirement accounts, those are illiquid assets. You have to take time to get that money. If you need that money, that's why my belief is, and I can prove it to you numerically, I cannot prove it emotionally, that the highest risk asset or investment you can have is if you have home equity, because you can't get it, right? And you can't get a loan if you really need it, right? As a lender, as a banker, we don't lend money to anybody that needs money. We lend money to the people that want money. And that's a big issue right there. So real estate takes time to get your money. Retirement accounts takes a little less time, but then you have to pay a penalty. So talk about a little bit of the mindset of successful people. What are they thinking about? Well, poor people, consumers that buy depreciating assets. That's those cars, shoes, clothes. Middle-class people, consumers that buy appreciating assets. And rich people, they're producers that buy appreciating assets. But think about this. Here's the issue that's the biggest issue that we come across. The biggest issue we come across. People that are thinking about the exact wrong thing. What's the wrong thing? Well, how much is the property? How much is the interest? How much are the fees? How much are the commissions? Those are things that middle class people are asking. Wealthy people don't. Why? Because all they care about is, can I get into the asset and can I afford the payment? That's the important part. If I said to you that you can buy a $2 million house and you say, Ron, I can't afford it. Okay. How do you know you can't afford it? What if the payment's $1 a month? Can you afford it now? Well, the answer is you probably can. So does it really matter what the price of the asset is? It matters, can you acquire the asset? I have some folks that I work with that strictly look at whether they can afford. So think about this. Rich people, they care about the return, right? That's what they want to know about. The wealthiest people, they're called accredited investors. Accredited investors go and they pay the highest commission or highest fees to their investment advisors of anybody there is. What do they pay? 20% of the profit and 3% on the management fee. You have to have a minimum $5 million investment. That's called a hedge fund. So think about that concept. They're paying 3% just to be able to walk in the door. And if that hedge fund manager makes $1 million this year, they're going to pay $200,000 in fees, 20%. And they don't care because they just made $800,000. Right? That's the way rich people think. Rich people are looking at it. I'm working with some folks right now. I was talking about it before we went live, that they're actually looking at $1 million properties in Newport Beach. And they realize they're $1.5 million. And the buyers are saying, you know something, I'm not as concerned about the price of the properties as I am about being able to get into the property and can I afford the payment? So what are we doing? We're paying more than market value and we're using some of their money to buy down the loan. So we're looking at interest, and one of the questions, middle class question that they ask every lender, what's the interest rate? Well, it's a wrong question, right? Because I can look at a rate sheet today and I can see interest rates from 4% to 7.5%. And every one of those is a great rate. So the right question is what's right for you? That's really what's important. Then you have these folks that say, well, I want to make extra payments on my house. Why? So you can lock up more money that you can't have access to? Not a smart thing. So the thing we hear, biweekly mortgage payments or extra principal payments, or making an extra $100 a month on the payment so you can pay off the house quicker. Again, we're going to show you tonight in some ways to take that money and make your money work for you. There's really, as far as I know, you may know a different answer, but there's only two ways of making money in this country. One is off of your own back, and the other is letting your money work for you. Those are the two ways. So what we're going to talk about is how you get your money working for you, how you can have a game plan to be wealthy, how you can have a game plan to have $1 million in assets in a short period of time. We're going to show you all of those things tonight. So you're accelerating how fast you trap money in your home by making those extra payments. And I talked a little bit about that a little bit ago, about the idea of locking that extra money in your house. Do you really want to do that? Do you really want to say, I've talked, right now we've got in our country 58% equity in homes. That's on average. The average home has 58% equity. Now, if you're talking about Knoxville, Tennessee, that might make sense. And I know there's a lot of people that follow the Dave Ramsey theory. And I say the exact opposite is true. If you're in Knoxville, if you're in Eastern Tennessee where he is, that might make sense when you're buying a $100,000 mansion. But if you're in Orange County, California, and you've got $1 million house and you've got 58% equity, that means you've got $580,000 worth of equity that's doing absolutely nothing for you. So let me ask you this. If you were to take that $580,000 and put it, and you wanted to invest that, would the right place to invest that be under your own mattress? Right? Would you put it under your pillow? No. You're going to put it into something that's going to make money. Real estate appreciation, real estate equity makes absolutely no return on investment. That $1 million property is going to go up 5% a year, whether you owe $1 million on it, whether you owe 500,000 on it, or where you owe zero on it. So the amount of equity becomes totally irrelevant. So we don't want to trap any more money in there than we have to. Right now, if you're looking at that 4.5% interest rate, and I don't know what you'll qualify for, but if you look at that 4.5% interest rate that we just quoted on a property in Newport Beach, California, just over the weekend, we were doing that. If you're looking at that same exact thing, 4.5%, and you can put that in an index universal life policy that over the last 30 years has had an 8% return. Doesn't that make more sense? Think about it. And it's in an index universal life policy, which basically says it's about as secure as you can't say it's guaranteed, because the only thing we can ever say is guaranteed is United States Treasuries. So it's not guaranteed, but it's about as close as you can get. You need to have the following first. So let's talk about this. Before you start buying a house, here's some things that we're going to talk about that we really want you to be focused on. Number one, get that emergency fund put together. And I'm going to say 6 months. Now, in the packets that you've got or that you can get online, there's a budget in there. You need to be doing a budget. That's just where you want to start. You want to make sure that you've got 6 months of your fixed finances set aside in an emergency fund. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. None of us do. So we want to make sure we've got that available in case something happens. If your company matches your 401k, if they match, put into the limit of what they match. If they don't match, I'm going to tell you something that no one else is going to say. Don't put money in a 401k. They're geared to tax you more. That's what a 401k is meant for. I'll explain. Put $1,000 into your 401k this year and it does really, really well. Or let me go backtrack. $1,000 in your 401, you make $1,000 and you have that to invest. If you pay taxes on it right now, in your 30% tax bracket, you're going to pay $300 in taxes. If it does as it's supposed to and it grows over time and that $1,000 grows to $10,000 and you're in the 30% tax bracket, now instead of paying $300 in taxes, you're paying $3,000 in taxes. What do you want to pay, $3,000 or $300? It's your choice. So now if your company is going to give you money, take it. So you put into the extent of your company match. A Roth IRA, you can put money in there. That's put in there after taxes. You don't have to pay any tax on the gain. So that's a better option. And one that I like, again, I'm not a financial advisor any longer, so I can't tell you this. I did 20 years ago when I worked at Merrill Lynch, put the money into a high cash value life insurance policy. Again, it's doing the exact opposite of what everybody else is going to tell you. So you want a small death benefit, high cash value. You're going to have the best investment advisors in the world managing that money. Take a look at all the big buildings around you and see who owns them. Well, you're not going to know who owns them unless you call a title person. They'll be able to tell you who owns the buildings. But they're all owned either by the U.S. government, the Catholic Church, or an insurance company. It's just the way it is, right? Why? Because they've got great investment advisors. So they're going to invest your money in that index universal life policy. And when you retire, you borrow the money from the policy. Borrowed money is not taxable. It's borrowed. As of right now, when a life insurance policy pays off, that's a non-taxable event. So the death benefit pays that policy, and you've got to use that money for all that time, having it as a tax-advantaged event. Speaking of insurance, you need to have the proper amount of life insurance, term and permanent. Again, you got to find a great advisor, and if you're just shopping for cheap, that's probably not going to be great. And I can tell you this, I need 2 knee replacement surgeries. I'm not going to Walmart to find my surgeon. Nothing against Walmart, but that's not where I'm going to find the surgeon to do them. I'm going to try and find the very best I can. And I don't go into there and say, okay, what's your price? And then go to the surgeon down the street and say, what's your price? I just want to know who's good. Your professional advisors need to be the same. Put 20% of your paycheck away. There's a great book, and I always forget the name of it. It's the, do we have that book, maybe Babylon, the Best Investor in Babylon or something along those lines? You can find it on it. That's the one. See, I don't even need to. Richest Man in Babylon. Great book. Pay yourself first, right? Appreciate that. There you go. Richest Man in Babylon, right? So pay yourself first, because you're going to find out how to solve the rest of your problems with the other money. You might need a gig work or something along those lines, but go ahead and do that. Your real estate should never, ever have more than 25% equity in the real estate. That's the premise of what I showed people, and I've taught this class over at Chapman University. I've done it on a radio show, is pull out the money out of your real estate to the extent of 25%. Put it in that Index Universal Life. That way you've got two things growing. Your real estate is appreciating, and your money in that Index Universal Life is growing. And, you know, it doesn't matter what the interest is that you're paying on the mortgage. I can show you how when the interest is high, then the return on your Index Universal Life is higher. When interest is low, your Index Universal Life is going to be a little lower, but it's still going to be a great return on that investment. So you want to make sure that you're taking that money out and not having dead equity. So let's look at a couple things here. $200,000 mortgage loan, a $200,000 mortgage, 4% fixed interest for 30 years. You pay an extra $100 a month in payments. What are the benefits? You're going to pay the loan off 5 years early, and you're going to save $26,853. Again, I shared with you, I just saw two properties today that are under $200,000 in Anaheim. So it's not like they're not available. But here's the issue. You're paying that 5 years early, and you've got $26,853. Let's contrast that with what you should be doing instead. If you want to be wealthy. Now, if you don't want to be wealthy, don't follow my advice. $200,000 mortgage loan on a 30-year fixed, 4%. You invest that $100 a month in an indexed fund at 6% return. After 30 years, that's going to have $100,953. So let me ask the question. I think I know the answer. Would you rather have $100,953 or the $26,000 that I said you would save just a minute ago by paying early? $26,853 or $100,000? You tell me which you would rather have. Pretty simple. Now, this is just at a 6% return. What if we get it an 8% return? That becomes $150,000. That's what these Index Universal Life policies average over the last 30 years. Will it happen next year? I don't know, because we can't guarantee these things. But if it averages that over 30 years, the likelihood is you can kind of guess where it's going to go in the future. So you're looking at $150,000 after 30 years versus putting extra money in your mortgage at $26,000. Now, I have people that say, well, Ron, I want to have my house paid off. Cool. Write a check. If you desire to have your house paid off, write a check for it at the same amount of time in the future as it would have been paid off. So here it'd be 25 years, and you'll still have an extra $100,000 to do what you want with. You tell me which is the better investment for you. So let's look at renting. Obviously, it costs a lot. Let's just go with a $1,500 a month rent. Hard to find that in Southern California. 5% annual increase. 5% costs $100,000 over 5 years. $100,000. How do we do that? Now, if you have to do any improvements, you don't get any of that money back. How much equity do you get when you rent? Zero. So you have nothing to show for your money. Your landlord might be happy though. They might even send you a thank you note, but probably not. But I want to show you exactly how this works so you understand where I came up with $100,000 in 5 years. So if we assume a 5% increase per year, you've got year one, $1,500, $18,000, year two, $1,575, costs $18,900, go all the way down to year five, $1,824 is $21,888. Add them all together, 5 years, $99,480 in rent. Think about that. Now, I should update this. This is a cost of waiting analysis. We can do this for you at any time on any property. Tell us what your payments are right now in rent, and we can do a cost versus rent analysis and give you an idea. But you can see on here where the costs are and what you've lost. So waiting 3 years, you've lost $9,800 just in the amortization. So that's forced savings. And you've lost $36,000 in appreciation just by waiting. $46,000 is your cost there. Think about some of these numbers, and I'm not going to read them all to you because you can see them on the screen or on your TV or on the video that we can send you afterwards if you want. So let's talk a little bit about the current housing market. So a lot of folks think that housing is tied to what the Federal Reserve is doing. It is not. In fact, a lot of times housing goes the exact opposite of what the Federal Reserve is doing. Federal Reserve right now is increasing their rates. They've said that they're not going to hold them the same. I'll tell you, they're probably going to reduce them later this year. But regardless, they've been increasing rates. Housing is not tied directly to what the Federal Reserve is doing. Prime rate is tied to what the Federal Reserve is doing. Prime rate right now is 8.25%. That's what the best businesses borrow from their bank, 8.25%. Home equity lines of credit, those are tied to prime rate, which is tied to the Fed funds. Those are usually about 2% above what prime is. So home equity lines right now are about 10.25, depending upon the amount of equity you have and the other compensating factors. So that's not it. Housing is tied to demand. That's what drives housing appreciation. How much demand is there? Demand is driven by job growth and the inventory of homes, which is the supply. Right now, everybody knows we've got a shortage of homes. That's why I was sharing earlier 2 homes in Newport Beach that one of our clients was bidding on. They said one went for $100,000 over asking, one went for $75,000 over asking price. Just crazy, right? And they said to the people, if you're not paying cash, don't even bother, right? So it's just be careful. Not enough properties available. Stronger the job growth, the better the appreciation on the home. Got a strong job market. There's people out there buying. Appreciation goes up. If you were excited about the housing market the beginning of last year, you'll probably be excited about the housing market the end of this year because you'll probably be seeing the exact same thing. Multiple offers. You don't get your offer accepted. That's what we're going to see because we're going to see interest rates drop and we'll have more bidding on properties. Less inventory of homes, the higher the home prices. Home prices have declined from 2006 to 2012, but they were all the way back up again by about 2018. So not going to happen. 2012 was the first year of home price increase since 2006. 1 year appreciation in 2021, about 18%. Last 5 years appreciation was about 31%. Since 2000 and price appreciated 119%. And if you want to take a look, the estimated national price performance, this is from my favorite source of home price forecasting. This is a company called the Home Price Expectations Survey. The best economists in the world are invited to participate in this. And the last survey they did, they had 117 economists. Their bankers, their academia, their business, all of those folks are invited to participate. And they said that prices are going to drop in 2023 by 1.61%. I think they're going to be wrong. I think that's because of what's already happening and we're already seeing this shift. Prices have already started turning and they'll probably be up this year. But you can see there by the end of 2027, they're showing back at 4.44. That's national numbers. So if they're at 4.44 nationally, and historically nationally we're at about 3%, you can actually look at it and say California is usually 40% higher, or Southern California is 40% higher than these numbers. So you want to just be aware that these numbers are continuing to grow. So the perfect time, I'm going to send you everything, so don't worry about it. Perfect time to buy Well, 10 years ago, that was the best time to buy, right? Can't buy 10 years ago. It doesn't work that way. So second best time is right now. Historically, low interest rates. And I know we've doubled in interest rates, but when we're talking about interest rates at 4.5 to 7, and the average over the last 30 years is 8.25, we're still talking about low interest rates. Own a home for what you're paying in rent. Right? The last I saw, the rent in Orange County was like 35. Well, Orange County is $5,200 a month. $5,250 is median rent in Orange County, California. $5,250. Now I can promise you, you can buy a house for less than $5,250 a month in a mortgage payment. It may not be your dream home, but get on the board. Start playing Monopoly. Tax savings for as long as you own the home. You're going to have that benefit. So is it a great time to buy? I think it is. Unless you, again, go back to what I said earlier. If you want a D.R. Horton, you're going to be better off than a Coleman. Just think about that part. So if you think you're ready to buy a house, you've got your budget together, you've got your emergency fund, let's start talking about what you need to do. There's two things. I have in here pre-approval because that's what's most common. I like pre-underwritten, which is actually even better than being pre-approved. But a lot of people talk about pre-approval, so we'll talk about that. It's the only way you're going to know for sure that you can really buy a house. And don't go start shopping before you get that pre-approval. The bottom line is you're going to probably be disappointed. If you go out and start shopping based on what you think, you may look at a $600,000 house and you're on a $400,000 budget, and now you're going to start saying, well, I don't like those $400,000 houses, because you've ruined yourself. So get pre-approved or pre-underwritten. That's the best way. Want to get started? There's the link for our loan application for California, sltloanapp.com, sltloanapp.com. It'll go right to our team, and they can help you. You won't waste time looking at or falling in love with properties that are out of your price range. I don't know any real estate agent on the sell side that's going to accept or entertain an offer. Accept is not even in the question. But they're not going to even entertain an offer that doesn't have a pre-approval letter or a pre-underwritten letter of some sort. They're not going to look at it. The listing agents are going to say, I've got 10 other offers. I just told you Newport Beach, they're not even looking at financed offers in some properties. All they want is cash. Right? So you got to go that extra step and get pre-underwritten. And that's what our team does, is get the files underwritten for you. It's going to tell you how much money the lender is going to loan you, how much down payment you're going to need, what your monthly payment will be. So the difference is you hear about pre-qualified or pre-approved. Pre-approved is what our team is doing, and actually we've got a dashboard that we set up that we'll send out with some of the things that we've done in the background to make sure that the transaction is going to close. Frequently, we end up speaking to the listing agents as well and saying, hey, I know this person, and because of how long we've been doing this, many times we know the listing agents, so we have a relationship there. And when they hear that we've done the background work, your offer may be more likely to be accepted. But let's take a look at the difference between the pre-qualification and the pre-approval. So both of them are going to do a credit check. The pre-qualify may or may not have a loan application. The income is not going to be verified on the pre-qualified. It is on the pre-approval. Assets are verified on the pre-approval. Loan guidelines are confirmed, and you can go out and shop with confidence when you've got that pre-approval or pre-underwrite. Don't make these costly mistakes. So here's just a few of them, the mistakes that home buyers make. And if you've gone through this process, we hope that you're going to avoid them. Ignoring home buyer incentive programs. There are a lot of them out there. Last time I checked, there's 357 down payment assistance programs. 357 of them. So think about that concept as well. Not applying for the mortgage credit certificate, not getting pre-approved before shopping. How much could that one cost you? If you go out there and you got pre-qualified, you've paid your earnest money deposit, and you don't have a great agent that can help you get that money back, could be a potential problem there for you. There are certain programs that are all local. So I like the idea. Obviously, it's self-serving. Use a local lender, right? Somebody that you can actually sit down and talk to or have a relationship with. Even if you're not face-to-face, have a relationship with them. Right? In the early part of last year, people were skipping the appraisal and skipping the home inspection. That can cost you a lot of money, right? So be careful of those things. What if you find out that you've got a slab leak and you didn't know about it, or you need to have a new roof? Those are expensive issues. Cost you $500,000 to $100,000. Again, prepaying the mortgage before you've got some money put aside in your investment accounts. Those liquid items that I talked to you about a little earlier, having that liquidity is always a big benefit. So here's the fun part, getting ready to go buy a home. Are you ready? So do you have the steady income? Do you pay your bills, including your rent, on time? Do you have low to medium debt? We'll talk about that a little bit more. Do you have cash for closing costs or down payment? You may need it, but if you're working with a great team of professionals, again, not just looking for the cheapos, you're going to end up finding that maybe you don't have to worry about the cost for the down payment. Do you have some reserves? What are reserves? So after you've made your mortgage payments, your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA, if there is any, you have 2 months worth of those things saved aside. That just makes your life a little bit easier. Do you have the ability to make the mortgage payments? There's rules now that as a lender, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that you can pay the mortgage back. Darn rules, exactly. Sometimes they pose a problem. So, first steps. Talked about this before. Make that household budget. There is a budget form in the packets. Get a credit check. So we can do a soft credit check for you. It doesn't cost anything. If you're going to Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, or almost any one of the other places online, those are not giving you a mortgage credit score. They're going to give you a Vantage credit score or some other credit score. They're not giving you mortgage credit scores. We can only use mortgage credit scores. Do you have that emergency fund we talked about? And do you have a financial plan? What are you trying to accomplish? How'd you like me to give you a financial plan right now to have, what do we do? About $1 million, $1.5 million in real estate in 6 years. Does that make sense? So go and buy some sort of property right now. I don't care whether it's a $300,000, $400,000 property. The $400,000 property you can get into in many instances with nothing down. Buy that property right now. Then do what your parents probably said that they should have done. I know I said it, is what happens if you're able to keep the very first property you bought and don't sell it. Now, wait a year or maybe a little bit more and save up a little bit of money while you're in that property that you just bought, that starter home. Keep it and rent it and go buy a new primary residence. You can buy a new primary residence after a year or two with another FHA loan, very minimal down, or a conforming loan, minimal amount of down payment. And it's one of those issues that people talk about all the time. Well, I don't want to pay mortgage insurance. Well, the mortgage insurance is 0.5% on a property that's appreciating at 5%. Why would you worry about it? That's what middle class and poor people think about. Rich people think about the concept of what can I do? How can I use other people's money to make money? So you're keeping that first house that's appreciating. Say you bought a $400,000 house in Orange County last 5 years, 63 years, appreciates at 5.3%. 500,000, 5.3, that's appreciating $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year. Now you go buy another one, maybe it's a step up, just a little bit nicer, $750,000. Right? Do that with $25,000 down. Now you've got $1.2 million that's appreciating at 5%. You've got $60,000 a year in appreciation coming. 2 years later, you buy $1 million property. And now you've got $2.2 million appreciating at 5% a year. That's $110,000 in appreciation every single year. Wait 10 years, that's $1 million. There's a game plan for you right there. Now, and two of the properties, somebody else is making the payments on. Just throw that out there. Financial planning. That's the issue. You want another plan to have $1 million? Age 30. It's probably only one of us here around that age. All eyes go to one straight. Oh, Maricella's 30. I don't know how this works. We don't want in vitro, I guess, is the way this is. Current age, 30 years old. Current 401k balance, 0. Salary, $30,000. 2.5% salary increase every year. 10% savings. Retirement contribution, that's $92 every other week. $2,400 a year. And you got a retirement age of 67 on a 10% return. There's $1 million. If you're a little younger, you get more. If you're a little older, you have to accelerate and save more. How much do you need to buy a house? Let's go back to this $200,000 house, hypothetical, 3.5% down. Down payment is $7,000. Closing costs are $8,000. So you need $15,000 to buy that house. Again, it may be that you need to double that depending upon your area. But, well, the settlement costs aren't going to double. Settlement costs are probably going to be right around the same. The down payment might double. Ron, I don't have $15,000. Well, that's why you're here. That's why you're watching us, because we're going to give you some solutions for that. In the packets that you have, there's a down payment assistance program that'll actually show you how you can get a 3.5% down payment assistance. That's going to give you that $7,000 in this example. It could give you $14,000 on a higher priced property. The realtor negotiates because you say, I don't have enough money to even cover the closing costs of $6,500. Well, the realtor negotiates for $6,500 in closing costs from the seller. That's why you're not looking to go to the cheapest realtor or unexperienced realtor on the market. You want somebody that knows what they're doing, that's an excellent negotiator, that's trained. Now you need $1,500 to get into that house. Becomes a little bit easier. What do you need to get into a lease? Think about that concept. So we're going to give you a couple of terms that you need to know. I wonder why that's underlined. Maybe it's because it's important. Loan to value. So LTV is what we call it. So an example of a loan to value, you've got 100% loan to value, purchase price is $200,000, the loan amount is $200,000. The loan to the value of the property, it's the loan amount divided by the property price. 80% loan to value, purchase price $200,000, you got a loan amount of $160,000. 96.5% loan to value, purchase price $200,000, loan amount is $193,000. So then you just multiply the $200,000 times 96.5. That gives you the loan to value. Other term you need to know about, debt to income ratio. So there's two different debt to income ratios that we deal with. We've got the top number and we've got the bottom number. So you've got income, assets, and credit are the three parts of that, deciding factors. So income, gotta have steady employment. We need to know that you're going to be able to pay the bill. Self-employed, you need 2 years of history. Last 2 years tax returns, the averaging of those two for the self-employed borrowers. There may be some other ways of getting around that. We always look at them. Wage earner, W-2 employee. If you have overtime and bonuses or a second job, you've got to have a 2-year history of those things. We've got to verify a 2-year employment history. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's got to be at the same place. You've got a 2-year history. Exceptions, schooling, seasonal jobs, union jobs, and more. I actually had a client that had 47 W-2s. And he was in his mid-60s. Well, it was simple. He actually was a retired LAPD officer. And those guys, when part of their retirement with the union is they can go on movie sets and do security. So every movie gave them a separate W-2. So we were able to get a letter from the union saying that this has been going on for 70 years. The likelihood is it's going to continue to go on. And we were able to get them approved that way. Schooling, if you're within a year out of school, there's certain loan programs that we don't need a 2-year history on. Assets, money in the bank. But the money you see on the screen is not good, right? Cash doesn't work for traditional financing. Savings, checking, CDs, money market, those are good. Money in retirement accounts, those are good. 401k, 403b, all of those are areas of assets that we can use. You can usually borrow from them to buy a home. So at various times, they have different issues. 401ks, a lot of them will have a program in there where you can borrow. Life insurance policies. Remember I talked about the Index Universal Life? You can borrow from those. Usually I think you have to have the money in there for a couple of years and then you can start borrowing that money. And there's no tax liability for borrowing it. Non-liquid assets, some of these are a little more difficult. We have to source everything on the assets. Closing costs are sourced. The deposit with the sales contract is sourced. And again, if you've got cash, can't use cash, but we can show you how to put it in the bank the right way if it's legitimate. The deposits, again, we have to source them. Understanding the credit part of this. So got to have credit issues. FICO scores, we're going to look at them. If you don't have a FICO, I've had people that didn't have a FICO score and there was nothing wrong with their credit. It's just that they didn't have anything on there. They became an authorized user and that's what we did. The importance of trade lines. You've got to have multiple trade lines. Correcting sometimes there's errors in there. Most of the time there's errors on your credit report. Sometimes we can just fix them with a letter or dispute. Sometimes we need to get one of our partners involved. Again, it's understanding who can help people. Sometimes we need to do rescoring. One of the first things a lender does when you apply for a mortgage loan is order a copy of your credit report. Your credit report shows your debts and payment history with creditors who have loaned you money. Mortgage credit report is different than other credit reports. So your credit report that a credit card company or car company is going to use, totally different than what a mortgage lender is going to use. Totally different scoring. Everything is different on there. There's the number of the 3 bureaus. And right now, still to the end of this year, you can actually get a copy of your credit report every week if you want it. Doesn't have your score on there. Got to pay for that. But you get a copy of your credit report every week. Just take a minute to fill out the forms to get that. Loan specialist to run your credit report and provide you a copy at one-on-one mortgage planning appointment. Here's a big benefit for you. Optoutprescreen.com. Optoutprescreen.com. Unless you like getting a bunch of solicitations, phone calls, mailers, then don't do this. But you can go to optoutprescreen.com. Do that as soon as possible. Do not call.gov. Do not call.gov is another one of those places where you can try to avoid some of the nuisance calls. If you do not, the bureaus can sell your information anytime. So if you're going to get a credit card check for a mortgage, car, credit card, that information is sold. That's how the bureaus make so much money. You may get collectors calling and putting stuff back on your credit report because they know you may have to pay them in order to get approved for a loan. Think about that one. That's a real pain. Think that you had something that fell off your report, and then at the last minute, creditor sees that you had your mortgage, your credit pulled to get a mortgage loan, and they put it back on your credit report, and we find out about it at the 11th hour. Not good. If you opt out, your info is not shared with anybody. Sometimes they say it's going to take 5 days for that to go through before it stops the sales. How your score is used for a mortgage. That's the next step here. Score is used to determine the maximum loan to value that we can offer you. Score is used to determine your base interest rate. There's 37 different, I think the number's 37 different loan level price adjusters. 37 of them. Score is used to determine your base interest rate. Your score is used to determine which mortgage programs you qualify for. So if your score is lower, some of the programs just don't take lower scores. That doesn't mean you shouldn't get in the game. Still get in the game and work on your score. So let's take a look at some of those minimums. FHA minimum FICO score is 500. You have to put 10% down. 580 gives you a 3.5% down. 620 FICO, actually I should have changed that. Our down payment assistance program at Geneva actually would go down to 600 FICO score. So a little better than that. VA, 580 FICO score. One question that should always be identified or asked. is the party you're dealing with a veteran, and do they have eligibility? You know what the maximum loan amount is for a VA loan? There isn't one. It's a trick question. So you can actually have a VA loan up to any number that the lender's willing to lend. So I think we saw one recently that was getting hand signals. I don't know what that means. We got a veteran expert on the line. Cool. So we've actually done a series that we've been doing on the radio show, and we're going to pull those clips, a 52-week series on veterans loan programs and understanding the VA loan, because we love our veterans. Conventional minimum, they say 600. For the most part, there's overlays to go to 680. USDA 620. That's out in the rural areas, generally no down payment. Can't get a mortgage with no credit anymore. So all the lenders are asking for some sort of credit information. How do you establish credit? Let's talk about that. Apply for 1 or 2 secured cards with at least a $300 balance per. Our friends over at Blue Water Credit have some different resources that'll actually report within 7 days. Use these cards for your normal daily purchases, including groceries and other shopping. One of the best loan programs that we have is the Home Select program. And we actually say live your life on the credit card, because it'll help you pay off your mortgage and the effective interest rate becomes so low. Keep your balance on your credit cards below 30%. Also, if you want to know the right way to pay your credit cards, rsrccpayment.com, rsrccpayment.com. And Ron, I pay my credit cards in full every month. Do you do it before or after the statement date? So many people tell me that they do it right out when they get their statement, they pay it in full. Does not help you for FICO scoring purposes. In fact, might even be detrimental to you. Go watch the video, rsrccpayment.com. Pay more than the minimum payment. Pay it in full if you can every month before the statement closing date. If you need to get credit right away, the quickest way to get credit right away is get added as a joint applicant, not an authorized user, on a family member's card with good payment history. Authorized users are still working in some instances. You want to make sure you understand what you're doing, though. You want somebody that's got an old credit card that has a low utilization rate. Divide the amount used by the limit. That gives you the utilization rate. And make sure there's timely payments made on that. How to improve your credit score. A lot of credit stuff, because it's a very important part of the whole process. Pay all bills on time. Keep balances below 50% of the available limit, below 30% if at all possible. Don't close used accounts. The zero balance can help your score. The age of the card will help your score. Don't close anything while you're in the process of getting a loan. Pay off recent collection accounts or charge-offs. If it's more than a year old, give us a call. Let's talk about it before you do anything with it. Let old items over 2 years remain unpaid. If it's a collection issue on there, become a joint applicant. I don't think I already said that. Secured credit cards, we talked about that one. Tools to build your credit. Obtaining a secured credit card. SecuredCreditNow.com is the source. SecuredCreditNow.com. Send $300, get a $300 credit limit. Don't charge more than 30% or $89. Stay below the amount. And those credit reports to all 3 bureaus. There are some secured credit cards that don't report. Guess what they're good for? Nothing. Credit repair is legal. There are a lot of guidelines that must be followed, but our friends over at Blue Water Credit do a great job, and it is legal. It's regulated by the government. That doesn't mean it's legal, but it is. The only state I think it's not legal is Georgia. I don't know why they don't like you to fix your credit in Georgia. You can repair your credit on yourself, but most people don't know how. So they end up doing it, and they do it the wrong way, and then it makes more of a problem. Nothing needs to be on your credit report. Nothing. So anytime somebody says, what's on your report and I can't get it off, false information. Fact of the matter is, if it's on your credit report, it must be accurate, it must be complete, and it must be verifiable. If it is not all 3, it also must be removed. So bankruptcies, a lot of folks say, well, it's a bankruptcy, you can't get that removed. Well, it's got to be accurate, it's got to be complete, and it's got to be verifiable. Do you think the judge is going to verify it? No. Do you think the clerk of the court is going to verify it? No. People don't know that. So there are ways of getting everything off of your credit report. Again, you can do it yourself, or you can pay for it to be done, and it'll get done quicker. Hello. You can hire a company to fix your credit quicker, done right. Once again, I've talked to you about this, that it's done the right way the first time. So you can do it slow and long, or you can do it quick and get it done correctly. Your choice. Anything that's on there can be negotiated. So if you've got a collection, you can actually have the collection negotiated and not have to pay the whole thing. And so the idea here is, as they're negotiating, one of the items that can be negotiated is to have the item removed from your credit report. And if you don't understand what that means, the collection companies are going to say, well, we can't do that. The negotiators know how to get it done the right way because they can do it. All they have to do is not verify it. The minute the collection company doesn't verify the item, it must be removed. Pretty simple. Again, we want to do a company that's legal. There's one here. I should have, ma'am. No, it has to be the creditor. So they have to, so if it's ABC Car Company, and ABC Car Company went out of business and they want to go and verify it, there's nowhere to verify with. So that has to be removed. The other thing that's an interesting one is almost every credit card that's on a credit report is actually being reported incorrectly. Because if you ever looked at your credit report, do they put all 16 or 15 digits on the credit report of your credit card It means it's not complete, right? If it's not complete, it's not correct, it's not accurate. Now, some credit card companies, so what do the credit card companies say? They say, well, we do that for security reasons. Well, I have your name, I have your social security number, I have your birth date, I have your addresses for the last 2 years, and you're saying that number is going to be what I'm going to use to steal your identity. Hogwash. It's just a bunch of BS from the companies. Now, there are some of them now that actually will put your account number on there, not your credit card number. That's a whole different story, so that's acceptable. Again, I'm a big fan of Blue Water Credit. We were using My Credit Guy. I don't use them anymore. Not that they're bad, but that's not who I use. So, types of homes. A lot of different types of homes you can actually look at. So we've got single-family homes, single-family residences. And again, these are technical items. Sometimes when you look at a property as a layperson, you may not realize, is it a single-family home? Is it a townhome? Or is it a condo? In Orange County, there's a cheating way to find out what it is. If you look at the APN number in Orange County, California, if the APN starts with the numeral 9, it's a condominium. Doesn't matter what anybody says. The numeral 9 in the APN number in Orange County is a condominium. It's not the same for other counties, but you can just look at that APN and find out what it is. Because you might be looking at something that, well, heck, we live in a property that appears to be a townhouse, or it could be a condo, but it's a single family residence even though it's attached. So it can be. So just understand there's all different types. There's manufactured homes. There are various types of manufactured homes. You have to really, really understand manufactured homes if you're wanting to borrow on them, borrow traditional financing on them. Because after, I think it's 1976, I think it's 76, I should know it, but I think it's 76. July something of 76. Um, if it was built before July of 76, there's very little traditional financing. After that, there is financing available. And then obviously there's new construction. A cheat for you on new construction. Every time you go to a builder and you're talking about new construction, they're going to use their own contract. Who do you think that contract is built for? Them. When you go with a realtor, you still might be using their contract, but the realtors have other disclosures and issues. So you want to use a realtor. Now, when you go if you go to new construction, here's another key. Don't sign in with your real name. Put down Mickey Mouse, put down Donald Duck, put on Joe Biden. I don't care who you put down, just don't put down your name. The reason is, what's that? Or your email, put a fake email, fake phone number. All of it's fake. And I'll tell you why. Is when you go back there with your own representation, and you should have your own representation, that's called your realtor, then they can get paid from that company. The builders, they don't always pay the realtors anyway, but they're more inclined to pay them if they don't have you as part in their database. So if they require, put a fake phone number down there, or in some instances, if you're applying for things, get a burner phone number. Google Voice or something along those lines are good sources that you can use so that you're not getting bombarded. As I started the presentation with, you're most concerned with getting good counsel, good guidance, right? And that's going to be from your team of people that are working with you. So your realtor, your lender, your home inspector. I do all my home inspections where I control them. I don't control a lot of them. I use Hammond Inspections. They just do a great job for people. I've known them for a long time. I've got agents that'll come out and say, well, I'm going to give out 3 names. Okay, that's their prerogative. I just say that in Orange County and LA County, I use Hammond. I've got another one for the Coachella Valley, but most consumers don't know. They don't do this every day. We do it every day. Next up, different types of loans. There are lots of them. Fixed rate loans. For the most part, we don't do a whole lot of adjustable rate mortgages just because mortgage rates have been so volatile and there hasn't been enough of a spread to make them valuable lately. Interest-only loans. I like interest-only loans because we're not burying so much into home equity, which we already talked about, get you a 0 rate of return. I like 30-year mortgages. There's also a 15-year mortgage. Again, I mentioned this earlier. I'm not a big fan of the Dave Ramsey system, and he basically only wants people to use a 15-year mortgage. Well, again, Orange County, most people can't even afford. The affordability on a 30-year mortgage is tough. 15 years, even harder. And exactly, forget about it, right? And you've got too much money that's debt equity. We're wanting to build wealth. Part of this whole thing that we're doing is not just getting a house, it's getting a future, right? The game of Monopoly, the idea, if you think about what we're talking about, is Monopoly. The game of Monopoly is to see how many properties you can buy and afford and how many of them we can get somebody else to pay for. Second mortgages, we use those sometimes. It's a strategic item. We do them on a fixed, there's fixed rates and there's adjustables. Again, in a rising interest rate environment, they can be difficult. But sometimes if somebody's just short on their loan amount to get into the conforming loan limits, sometimes we'll use a second mortgage, either fixed or HELOC on those. Again, it's part of the strategy. There are mortgage credit certificates, first-time home buyer tax credits. Only certain only lenders have them. Sometimes the big banks don't deal with them. They don't want to. Sometimes they're harder to get involved with when there's a shortage of inventory. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Conventional loans, 5% down generally. There are some that are 3% down on the Home Ready programs. Again, lower credit score equals a higher rate. But does it matter? What's your rate on a rent? Right? You're paying 100%. You got nothing to show for rent. So if your mortgage is at 7%, 8%, whatever it is, you're still going to be better off with that. And you're going to have a higher cost of mortgage insurance if you've got a lower credit score also. I have an investor that's in my office, and because of what he does, he uses private money for everything. So he's putting 30% down and he pays 9.5% interest. Doesn't care. No paperwork. He just goes and does it. It's right for his investment strategy. Conventional loans backed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. The maximum loan amount now in Orange County is $1,089,000, I think, on these. So you've got the conforming loan amount, and you've got high cost or high cost property values. Again, technically the minimum score is 620. For the most part, the investors will have what's called overlays to 680. Then we've got what was that on the bottom there? Mortgage insurance tax deductible. FHA loans, again, this is a great loan for getting started. Lower credit scores generally, it's 96.5% loan to value, 3.5% loan down payment. And if you look in your packets, we've got that down payment assistance program that'll actually give you 3.5% toward that. So for those of you that are not very fond of math, 3.5% minus 3.5% equals 0. They'll tell you that you've got to have a 31-43 debt ratios. We talked about debt ratios before. 31% is your housing cost, 43% is all in. So we actually have some programs that'll go up to like 49% on the back end debt to income ratio. Again, there's compensating factors. How much do you have in reserves? What are your score numbers? 500 minimum credit score on FHA loans. The down payment assistance program has a 600. If you have less than a 580 FICO score, you're going to have to put 10% down. On the FHA loans, the seller can pay up to 6% on the closing costs. So think about some of these numbers. The closing costs shouldn't be 6%, but they can use that money to help get a lower interest rate as well. Upfront mortgage insurance, 1.75. The monthly mortgage insurance is 0.55. That 1.75 can be financed, so you don't have to worry about coming out of pocket with that. You can have non-occupying co-borrowers to help with the debt-to-income ratios if you need extra income for it. And these loans are more lenient to allow for people that have some credit challenges. And you can hear my voice is just about going out. Rehab loans. FHA has a great rehab loan program. So if the property needs to have some work, there's two different kinds of rehabs. One of them is basically a cosmetic rehab, goes up to $35,000. The other one is a full rehab, goes up to the county lending limit. Gives you funds to repair, rehab, or upgrade the property. Loan is the purchase price plus the money needed for the rehab. And the property doesn't have to meet FHA guidelines at the time of the purchase. So sometimes you need that money in order to get the toilets working or get a new furnace put in or something along those lines. Great for bank-owned properties that need repairs. A lot of times, right now, the banks may not be allowing for that, but we do watch that. VA loans, one of our favorites. 100% financing. And it drives me crazy when people say, well, yeah, it drives me crazy when people say, well, they don't have any skin in the game. Well, they put their life on the line. That's called skin in the game. 100% loan to value, no loan limit with a full entitlement, and can, yeah, your whole body. Yeah, you put it all on they put it all on the line. So, they've earned it. My opinion, best loan on the market. They do have some income ratios that we have to look at. Again, they want 31-43. We can go higher with better scores and assets. So we just talk about it. 580 minimum FICO score. Seller can pay up all of the closing costs. There's a lot of benefits in the VA loan. Seller can actually even pay for the pay off a car for somebody if they want to, to help them qualify. It's got the best appraisal program in the world. Right. And there's two places that you can actually go to challenge it. Right. So if the appraiser says the house is worth 500 and you've got a 550 contract price, the appraiser by rule must send the agents and the lenders notice that I don't have value, and they have 48 hours to respond. If they still can't come up with value, then you can actually go to the regional lending center and ask to challenge it there, and they can override the appraiser as well. Best rates out there. So if he doesn't do it, he gets fired. He'll lose his ability. So VA appraisers must follow VA guidelines. So they must get the appraisal back in a certain amount of time. And if they don't follow that 48-hour Tidewater, then they can lose their ability of ever doing another VA loan, VA appraisal. Very, very strict guidelines on the appraisers. The lending center, in fact, I just had one that we closed recently in Idaho that it was a condo that was a not approved condo. And we went to the lending center, the RLC, and they did a special approval for the veteran just so he could get it. No loan limits for USDA loans, limited by income and geographical location. Again, we've got the ratio requirements, minimum FICO score of 620. You can borrow up to 101% of the appraised value. Monthly mortgage of the MMI, the PMI. Seller can pay all the closing costs and prepaid items. And again, they've got great rates on these. Eligible area maps. You can go right on the internet and find out what properties. Ironically enough, it's supposed to be for rural areas. I don't remember the zip code, but there's actually one zip code in Santa Ana that qualifies for USDA loans. Interesting. Pre-approval process. After you've completed the application, we're going to verify the information and provide and return a decision on your application. Pre-approval here. So this is not a pre-qualification. We're going to actually run the automated underwriting, which some people find value in. I will tell you it's absolutely worthless, regardless of what anybody wants to tell you. Our team can get a positive or an approved eligible anytime we want to, because we understand what it's looking for. So if you're a good lender, a good loan officer, you can put in information to get the approval. If you're a bad loan officer, you might make a mistake and get the approval. That's why we like to do the pre-underwrite first, and that way we understand exactly. We've already done all the verifications. The income's verified, the assets are verified. Or in some instances, the underwriter is going to say that they're going to do what's called conditioning. They're going to say, okay, we got the approval based on your representation that you're going to have these funds available. And if they don't, then that's just a condition that's not met, so we have a problem. On the pre-approval, you're going to make sure that the income is there. You're going to confirm the down payment, clarify any incorrect items on the credit report, verify any debts not listed on the credit report. If you remember earlier when we were talking about credit, I said that you can get a bankruptcy can be removed from your credit report. That does not remove the liability for the borrower to put on their disclosures that I have a bankruptcy. So you can't lie on the reports. Paying your mortgage. What does my mortgage payment include? Principal, interest, taxes, insurance, plus mortgage insurance. That's what's all on that front end number. Principal is the amount of money you borrow based on the seller price of the home. Interest is the cost of borrowing money. Taxes are paid by the homeowners to local governments and usually charged as a percentage of the assessed property value. Insurance offers financial protection in the event of a loss. Two main components that can be included as part of the payment: homeowners or hazard insurance and mortgage insurance can all be part of that payment process. The homeowners association, if there is one, that's paid separately, but that still does go into the housing portion of the debt to income ratio. I think I mentioned earlier, there's 37 different items that go into the interest rate. I'm not going to go through all of them. But there is a credit score, loan to value, rental payment history, size of the loan, loan to value, how long a rate lock. So some people want a longer rate lock. Longer the rate lock, the higher the interest rate. Shorter the rate lock, lower the interest rate. Location, rural versus urban. And there's 3 different types from occupancy. You've got primary residence, you've got a second home, or you've got non-owner occupied. Primary residence and second home are pretty close to the same. They're the cheapest. Non-owner occupied is the highest. And if you're doing a cash out loan, that's going to be higher as well. But we're talking about purchasing here today. So the level of documentation, a lot of people remember the mortgage meltdown. That was the problem with the mortgage meltdown, was the documentation. If you could fog a mirror, you were qualified. It's about all it took. It's not that way anymore. We're looking at different documentation to make sure that people pay it back. Prepayment penalties, if you pay back the mortgage too soon. We don't see that too often other than in private money. You can have your choice, taxes and insurance. So there's California, we've got a weird thing. So we've got what we call escrow. So escrow can mean 2 different things. Escrow can be the process of acquiring the property. They're basically an independent referee. They read the contract and make sure both sides do what they're supposed to. We also have escrow, which is a method of collecting funds. So the taxes and insurance go into an escrow account. So it can be kind of confusing, but the escrow account is just an account that the servicer, the place that you make your payment to, they're holding your money so that there's enough funds available to pay your taxes and insurance when they're due. So you don't get that big bill at one time. Right. Yep, exactly. Right, exactly. Amortization period, so that's what we were talking about, the amortization of the loan, 15 years, 30 years, 25 years, whatever it is. You've got fixed rate loans or adjustable rate loans. The adjustable means just that. It can adjust at various times. Ironically enough, most of our high net worth individuals use an adjustable rate loan, but they have a fixed period for a lot of them will use 7 years because that helps with qualifying. There are 3-year and 5-year, but most of the high net worth individuals will use what they call a 7-1 arm. So it's fixed for the first 7 years, adjusts every year thereafter, or could adjust every year thereafter. A lot of people say, I don't want to pay points. And that just tells me they don't know what they're talking about. So points can be good. It just depends on what you're looking to accomplish. We talked about earlier the idea of just getting into the property. It doesn't matter what you pay. It matters, can you afford it, right? Can you afford to get into the property? So sometimes you're paying points in order to get a lower interest rate, to get a lower monthly payment, which gives you larger purchasing power. So is it good or bad? Yes, it could be either way. Again, those are types of loan programs. Once you've been pre-approved, what do you need to know? So again, we've talked about FHA, VA, conventional loans. We need to know the purchase price. Again, that's going to help us determine what that monthly payment is. Principal, interest, taxes, insurance. We're generally not going to be locking up the interest until you're in contract. So frequently when you see on the pre-approval, we may put a high number on there for the interest, but that's not locked in until we're in contract. And how much seller paid closing costs, that's going to be a big issue. The realtor is going to help you figure that out in the negotiations. So the realtor and the lender work together on your behalf. That's why you want to have them that know each other and have a relationship. A relationship doesn't mean going online to find out the Rocket Mortgage. You don't ever get to talk to the same person twice. Not bad people. It's just not the most efficient way. And also figure out how much money you need at closing, because your payment, the biggest part of what you need to know is how much do I need in liquid funds, and can I afford the monthly payment? Those are your 2 big questions. We talked about the down payment assistance program and the action plan. And those are the things that you really need in order to go shopping. That's the key right there, because The fun part is the shopping. All that stuff that we've talked about for the last hour and 20 minutes has really been geared about getting ready to start going shopping. We do all the hard stuff and the tedious back end stuff. The realtors have a hard job. So they're here. But they get the fun stuff. The two most fun parts is getting in my opinion, you guys tell me if I'm wrong, getting an agreed upon contract and handing over the keys. Is there anything better than giving keys to a first time home buyer? Right? Isn't I mean, that's the fun. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. So when you're going shopping, you're going to have to make sure that there is some money available. You're going to have what's called earnest money deposit. Contracts require consideration, and consideration in the real estate world is this earnest money deposit. Again, the agents will tell you what you need, what's needed. So I know a couple agents that actually use the earnest money deposit as a negotiating ploy, especially when we're in a competitive environment. There's one that I know of that I just had on my radio show recently, and he uses a 40 or 50% earnest money deposit. He says that proves to somebody that they're serious. I don't know. I'm not on that side of the world, but he thinks it works best for him.
No, it's a serious amount for earnest money deposit because it's actually always a customer.
Okay.
It shows the seller that you're a serious buyer. And oftentimes, even if your offers all things being the same, if you demonstrate you're more serious, you're more likely to get offers.
Okay.
Always.
There you go. So you heard it from the horse's mouth, although those of you that are watching us on the video didn't hear it. But Lucas was confirming what I was saying, that there are, or what this agent said, is that if you have a serious amount of earnest money deposit, the sellers will take you more seriously. You need money for a home inspection. Again, I haven't even talked to Hammond what they charge for it, but $500 maybe. Is that about right? Okay. You're going to have the agents, again, the listing agent's not going to even consider an offer, especially in this environment, unless you've got a pre-approval letter. Pre-underwritten letter is even better. So who is on the team? You got the lender. We know who that is. You've got the realtor, buyer's agent. I see this all the time. I hear this question. Well, I want to go to the listing agent because I'm going to get a better deal. So I might have stolen this from Lucas, but I'm not sure. So if you're getting divorced, do you want to use your spouse's attorney or your soon-to-be ex-spouse's attorney? Right? I would say that's probably not a good idea. So if you're buying a house, do you want to use the other person's representative? No. You want to make sure that you've got somebody that's looking out for your best interest. It's hard to chase two rabbits. How can one agent do their absolute best for both people when one party wants the lowest price possible or best terms possible, and the other party wants the highest price possible or the best terms possible, right? Now, sellers may not always be looking for the highest price. It might be terms. It might be a buyback. It might be that you let them stay in the property. I don't want to know about it if it's over 59 days, but it's a matter of finding out what's important to the parties. So you need to have your own buyer's agent. We don't use attorneys as much in this state. Appraiser, they're part of the process. We don't get to choose them. So since the Dodd-Frank, we're not allowed to choose the appraiser since 2009. That goes to an appraisal management company. They choose the appraiser. Home inspector, you get to choose that, but make sure you're getting one. The insurance agent, we have insurance people that we recommend. You can use whoever you want. I don't care. But the bottom line is I don't want to get to the end of the process and find out that we don't have insurance. So a lot of times we'll deal with that. Some programs require a housing counselor, not all of them, but some programs you have to have a housing counselor. And again, once you're approved, Hit the streets, find what you like. And again, I've talked about this one before, rsrmoney.com. Great app. So it lets you monitor your credit, monitor your assets, monitor your budget, shop in 97% of the country. Does great stuff. It'll have property valuations. Those are historical. You need a great agent to tell you what the properties are really worth going forward. The numbers on there are what is very good for a baseline or for a refinance. First step, once you're shopping for a house, great agent. Full-time professionals, not looking for agents that are your best friend's dog walker's great grandma who got a license in 1999 and bought one house. Things have changed just a little in the last 23 years. So that's a good way of putting it. Listing agent works for the seller, not for you. The buyer's agent works for you, but it's paid by the seller. So if you have the opportunity of having somebody work for you, fiduciary responsibility for your best interests, and somebody else is paying them, why wouldn't you? Get your own buyer's agent. And again, the first thing that they're going to ask for, one of the first things, is they're going to ask for that pre-approval letter. And the really, really good ones are going to sit down with you and do a consultation. They're not going to just take 2 seconds and start going and shopping for houses, because part of their business card says realtor. It doesn't say tour guide. So far, I haven't seen any that say tour guide on their business cards. You don't want to waste your time. So I don't remember it, sorry. So she was doing it as a side gig, not professionally, and that's not what we really want to be doing. So again, the step 2, interview. Many people, the location of the home is the most important consideration while looking at homes for sale. Keep your specific needs in mind. Be flexible, right? I want to live in Newport Beach. I can't afford to live in Newport Beach, right? So I might have to get on a game plan to make that happen. You might want a 4-bedroom house with a white picket fence, right? You may not be able to afford that. Is the apartment that you're renting 4 bedrooms with a white picket fence and a pool? Probably not. So start out where you can and work to where you want to be. You may look at it and then you're talking to the agents. Most of the really good agents are going to want you to come up with a list of 3 different items. The items that the property must have, right? So you must have a bedroom. Maybe you need 2, maybe you need 3, whatever that is. So you're going to have the must-haves, the wanna-haves, and the bonuses. And really what you want to be thinking about is if the agent can find all of your must-haves, some of your wants-to-haves, and they can get you the price and down payment, then are you ready to make a deal, make an offer, make a purchase? If you're not, okay, must not haves. Deal break. Okay, deal breakers. Good. Yeah, whatever those are for you. So understand understand the must not haves. That's a good point. Thank you. Yeah, so make sure you're looking at all those, but be ready. If you're going through this entire process, if you've had an agent that's found the property that has all of your must-haves, some of your or all of your wants, and some or all of your wishes, fits your payment and fits your down payment, are you ready to take action? If you say no to that question, then we need to step back and find out, are you really looking to buy a house? Right? Because it may be there's some reason that we haven't identified why you don't want to buy a house. And sometimes the answer to that is fear. Right? And maybe you want to identify that too. Don't go by what what a lender says you can afford. Never ever go by what the lender says you can afford. What your budget says you can afford is what's important. Because we may come up with guidelines and qualifications that say you can afford $4,500 a month and you're only comfortable with 35. So don't go to the 45. That just means that you're able to do it, but you don't want to. Sit down and talk with your family. What's that wish list? Bedrooms, bathrooms. Understand what your requirements are for not a long. It doesn't have to be your lifelong property. Get on a search. Realtors have great tools to help you search for properties. rsrmoney.com has a tool that'll help you search for properties. But you want to get on a search. There's a lot of homes out there, and you may want to start touring. Be careful of touring too many homes. I had an agent that I used to work with. He moved out of the state, but he'd only go to one property a day with somebody. And he basically said, my job is to find the right property for you. If I didn't find the right property for you, we need to go and start over because I need to find out what did I miss in this process of our discussion. I don't know that I agree with that, but I'm just saying that was what his thinking was. And you just want to, if you go to too many properties, I think you get overload and you don't remember anything. Now, it is a little bit easier nowadays than it was when I first started investing in real estate, because we didn't carry phones with us all over. We didn't have cameras with that. Heck, we didn't even have cell phones back. Sorry, Isaiah. We didn't have cell phones then. But we didn't all have a camera and a video. That makes it a little easier to remember the properties that we like. But again, your real estate professional will be able to help you with getting into the houses and the tours. Find the property and negotiate with the sellers. Once you find a home you wish to buy, you make a purchase offer. You already know what the maximum amount you can afford. Deciding how much to offer should be based on the following. What are the average sales price of a home in the area with similar features and characteristics? Those are just issues that you're going to want to look at. Doesn't mean it's going to be the end all, because again, price is only one component, probably not even the most important. Payment and down payment are going to be your two most important issues. Can I get into it and can I afford it? What condition is the home in? Do I need to do improvements? Am I willing to do improvements? I don't know how to do improvements. I don't even know how to use a screwdriver. So something for somebody like me is going to be totally different when it comes to improvements than a contractor who knows how to use a screwdriver. I can use a phone. I can call somebody to do it. Are the similar homes available that are at a better price? Right? No one wants to be stupid, but again, you may say that I'm willing to pay more to get the terms I want so I can get into the property. How long has the home been on the market? Has the sales price already been reduced? These are things that a professional real estate agent will go over with you and explain what the underlying meaning is of these items. If a house has been on the market for a long time or a lot of price reductions, there's something that needs to be discussed, right? Is it an unwilling seller? Is it overpriced? Is there structural issues? Don't know, but there's something going on. Getting into the loan process, after the offer is accepted, you're going to go to the loan process. Again, you're going to make that earnest money deposit, check or wire. Wire transfers going directly to escrow are always our favorite as a lender, just because it's easiest to source. We know it came from a bank. But again, it's not something you can't use cash. Sign the loan docs with the disclosures with the lender. So we're going to do that with the notary. It's going to come to you, or you can go into escrow and get that done. You're going to order the appraisal, home inspection, homeowner's insurance, title search, schedule the closing, make sure that's all taken care of. Loan sent to the underwriting for approval. Hopefully that's done already. Generally, that's going to be done with our team before you ever get to the offer being accepted. We like to send that out as soon as we get all the documentation that we need. Loan is cleared to close. You have that final walkthrough with the realtor. Sign the documents. Ownership is transferred. As a table funder, we send the money at the same time that the documents are signed in most instances. That way the escrow can close it as soon as you sign. You're actually done for the most part. They have to go through the filing with the county recorder, but transferred ownership, you own the house and you're ready to move. So that's kind of the vast majority of it. In your packets, just let us know and we'll send you what I call the golden ticket. I don't think I put that on our handout. We've got the golden ticket. You know what the golden ticket is? It's a voucher for up to $525 off of your closing statement if you close a loan with us, and it'll help pay for your appraisal. So we call it a golden ticket. Bottom line, there's our number to get started. SLT Loan App is where our loan application is at online. You never have to really worry too much about anything you don't know on the loan application. And more contact information for us. We do a lot of this stuff on social channels. So there is our socials right there. In fact, this is being streamed on our Facebook page, I think, as well as on our webinar format. Covered a lot of information in the last hour and a half. So obviously there's always more, but if you've registered at rsrfthb.com, where we've got a dashboard with all the handouts on there, and we'll send you the video of the presentation tonight, so you'll have all of that information. Did I miss anything? I think we got it. I should look and see on our streaming if there's questions in there. If I knew how to do that. Well, being that I don't. Okay, Patty. Good. Patty likes Blue Water Credit as well. She likes them too. I found out where the questions are. You'd think I would know that, being that I do this every day. Okay.